Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Keegan Dale, and I'm here with Matt King on the KWI couch, and we're talking about, just anything and everything about how, the industry is on your first year out of school. And Matt decided to show up today with his hood because he joined the 100K club. Today, and so tell us a little bit about your 100K club experience and I guess how you got to here.
Right. So when I was getting ready to graduate, it was like it was July last year, so right at a year ago, and I had a trip planned with a buddy of mine. We were dead set on going, and then a guy came through saying he's looking for hands for rig welding, and I was like, oh man, I got to jump on that. So I called my buddy. I was like, man, I don't know if I can go on this trip. And then that fell through. So it's completely not what I thought was going to happen.
Right.
Completely different. Changed last minute. So trips back on. Then he broke his knee, and then tripped off again. So it was a little wild there. Started making phone calls, and actually got on with Spirit Construction. And I was in Georgia at a paper plant, and then hit the ground running from there, and just all gas from day one.
Okay, and did you make your 100K in the full year, or did you do it in like 8 months or 6 months, or how did that work out?
Did it in about 9 months. So from Thanksgiving to end of January a little bit, I took off, just at the house visiting family, and then I was waiting out for the job that I have now. And I ended up waiting until March. So from Thanksgiving to March, I was calling this weld boss, talking with him about a rig welding job, and I finally broke out there in March.
And that's, I think 9 months is kind of where a lot of people are at. I think I did mine and made my 100K in like 9 or 10 months as well, you know what I mean? So, and that's really not killing yourself either. That's kind of like taking a week off here and there and a couple weeks and whatnot. So, all right, well, cool. So I guess what was your experience like? Because I'm pretty sure our experiences were the same. We were in welding school and we were like, okay, I know what the industry is going to be like. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to be that top paying welder, and all I'm going to do is just weld all day long. You know what I mean? And that's obviously not how it goes. I mean, because once you get out of welding school, it's a whole new ball game. Just like when you're in high school and you like, oh, I know how welding school is going to be like. I know, and it's totally different. So like every time you jump that next stage in the welding industry, or each phase is totally different. You know what I mean? So how was your I guess experience getting out of school?
Yeah. So I thought I would definitely be pipelining by now. Like
right out of school.
I came into school with a rig. I had every tool I needed to go out and break out as a rig welder, and I was like, I'm gonna do it.
Top hand.
I went to KWI so I could be a combo welder. I wanted that specialty background so I could go into plants and refineries and do that too off a rig. And I was like, I'm gonna do refineries in the spring and fall, and do pipeline in summer, take winters off. That's what I'm gonna do.
Right, you had it all planned out.
Absolutely.
You were the pro right out of school. Yeah.
Thought it was gonna happen. I was like, maybe I'll be a helper for a while, and then 3 months of being a helper, I'll break out.
Right.
Well, it didn't quite work that way. I spent, was it 7, 8 months all single hand, and going from job to job, shut down. Right. Trying to network with people and get into that. I was a helper for a little bit at a pipeline, compressor station actually. Up in Medina, Ohio, and did that for a little bit. And I was like, man alive, this is crazy. Not what I thought it was going to be. And then kept going. Then I got on the phone. So I'm not pipelining, but I broke out as a rig welder, and I got into oil and gas. So
that's something you're working towards.
That's my stepping stone there. Got to meet more people and do a lot more welding. And
it's all about who you know.
Maybe have to take a step back again. So I'm making a great paycheck now, rig welding. Might have to take that, that kick in the gut to be a helper again.
On the pipeline, to get on the pipeline. And that's how it goes. Same thing with me. I got out of school thinking I was going to be some specialty welder, making top pay, but then you realize you gotta drop down again, you know what I mean, after welding school, and you gotta be that helper, or you gotta be that guy that takes the lower paying job, and you might be turning wrenches, you might be, working in mud or oil. You're not gonna be that welder that's just making welds and gets to chill out in the hooch all day with his phone, and then when they, they'll call you and say, hey, make a weld. It's like right out of school, it's, you're gonna get a real big reality check quick, in the welding industry. And I guess, but you just got to keep your goals, you know what I mean? You got to keep your goals high, and you got to keep them, I guess
stay focused on it.
Focused, yeah, you got to focus on it,
Because if you take your eye off the prize of what you want, it's real easy to be like, maybe I just stay at the house for a little while.
Right, yeah.
We'll just hit the cruise control, we'll take it easy.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, now it's time to get a job. Well, it takes a little while, maybe sometimes. So start calling, it takes 2-3 weeks, then you get on.
Right.
It's harder to get back into it if you take more time off.
Right, because that first year, if you take too much time off, you don't have that many contacts and networking, and so it can really it can throw you under the bus quick, you know what I mean? Because you think, oh, I'm a welder and I know all these people, but you really don't, because those people are just your other welder buddies who are out of school too, and so you're like, you're sitting water, so as soon as you get out, you got to just hit the ground running. So. Yeah,
I definitely felt that risk this winter when I took 3 months off.
Okay.
Trying to get this rig welding job, and I was like, man, if it don't work out, I know I got a couple phone numbers, but that's not as many. You need a lot more to like really keep going.
Yeah.
And just be able to pick up a phone and get a job.
Right, and it takes a lot of networking, and it takes a lot of skill and just drive just to get there, you know what I mean? So, anyway.
And if you're burning bridges along the way, then you're really digging yourself a hole too.
You're really digging a hole, because everybody knows everybody.
Everybody
you know
think like, oh yeah, I'm just going to drag this job and whatever, but that's really not good, because then it gets around and then you don't get around.
Right. Okay, Matt, so with your 100K club, there has to be, I guess, a certain amount of jobs that you did to get to there, and obviously it's your first year out, so you know, each job is going to be really impressionable, you know, in your mind. And so just run us through some of those jobs that you did to get to the 100K.
So I graduated on the 1st, and it was like the 4th of July weekend, so that Tuesday, I think, was like the 5th, I'm not quite sure, but the first day after the 4th, working day, I went to Spirit Construction down in Georgia. We're working at a paper plant. That was stainless. So first job was a Schedule 10 stainless job.
Okay.
We did a little mud wire, a little flux core wire on it too. So I got the purge a little bit of wire like that, and learned a whole lot about pulling Schedule 10.
Yeah, and that's your first job too. So you're fighting it for the little bit. You know what I mean? You're just cutting stuff out, and then you realize when you cut stainless out and you re-weld it, it pulls even more.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then put some dog's legs and some straight runs of pipe, and then looked at it like, what did I just do?
Yep.
What's going on? Because I wasn't quartering it then.
Okay.
I just welded from the bottom to the top, bottom to the top, we're good. And then you look at it, and it goes from straight to a little, had a little problem there. So we figured that out, got a little better at it. And then after that job, I got a call from another member of the 100K Club, RJ, Trey Allison. And we got, I was a house helper for a little bit at a compressor station in Medina, Ohio. Did that for a while, and that job got cut short because of coronavirus. Okay. And then we took it was 2 days. 2 days after that, I was on to another one. So it was back to back to back. First three immediately after each other. Stayed busy. And I went to a steel mill in Indiana for SDI. And that was a wake-up call.
How so?
The first two, the first job was stainless, so staying clean, it was nice. Just welding, that's all I really had to do, and I had it good. And then I was the helper. Okay. A lot more grinding, getting dirty.
But still not that bad.
Not bad.
Nice clothes, starch.
That's right. Had your FR, starched out, looking good. Yep. And then you're just walking in mud every now and again. That's it.
That's not bad. Yeah, every once in a while.
And then the steel mill.
Steel mill.
Little different.
About like a paper mill.
Yeah, hydraulic oil was everywhere. Right. It was from the grinder shavings, these giant saws that they have that cut these steel bars, left piles of it everywhere, and sometimes you have to crawl into it to make a weld. So you're taking a shovel and moving this carbon fiber and metal deposit shavings to get in there to crawl around in some hydraulic oil that it's all mixed in to make a weld, and now you're covered in this welding.
And that's kind of going back to what we talked about earlier. A lot of your guys that have been welding for like 7 to 10 years, they're not going to go on those jobs. So the people that are going on those jobs are the first ones out of school. Yeah, and it was a different schedule. So normally it's you're working 12s or 10s. Right. This was you're working when the plant shuts down, and it was daily shutdowns. So it wasn't like, all right, we're shutting everything down for 2 months. It was, we're shutting this system down for 12 hours, and it has to be done. Wow. And I was one of 2 welders for the crew. So it was when it's go time with welding, it's go time. And then on that actual job, since I was new and it was kind of a first job, I was doing a lot of machinist work with millwrights. The millwrights, yeah. So on that job, it was a lot of machinist work, and I was dealing with the millwrights and doing kind of millwright work when they were doing their kind of shutdowns, changing pumps and motors and all kinds of lines like that, and hydraulic lines, and like crimping and making hydraulic lines. I'm like, man, what am I doing here? Yeah. This is not what I signed up for. And then
some nights I'd be back to welding, and some of these machinists are now, these millwrights are helping me, so they're like being my fitter a little bit. Hey, can you grab this for me? Because it's all rush.
Yep.
Because it's
team
really
effort. Everybody
really
works
important
together,
to get it done before that shutdown is over, and finish what the company needed.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So after SDI, I got a job at in Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay.
For Turner Construction, working on Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin rocket test stand there.
Okay. Stainless.
So that was another stainless job.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And that one was also another wake-up call.
Okay.
So every job built upon each other.
Right.
And then I thought, like, okay, now I'm at a level, okay, I can weld. I know I can weld.
Right.
I got it. And then I show up and I take my test, pass it, feeling good. And then I get in there with some old hands that had been doing it a long time.
And you get shot down again.
That's right. And it's like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing again.
That's how it goes.
So I started learning. That's when I started quartering stainless.
Right.
And then learning how to weld fast and knock out multiple welds in a day when they're all 100% X-ray. And that was my first 100% X-ray job.
Okay.
And it was D11 severe.
Right.
And I did not know that showing
Now,
up.
were they X-raying or phasering?
I think it was X-ray.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But I do not know, actually, so they could have been.
Interesting.
Either way.
Right.
And that was, I think I had 200 welds with him and one repair that I fixed myself.
That's really good.
And yeah, and I realized that you can kind of push the limits a little more, which I did not in that job. And so instead of making, 7 welds that I could have made, I made 5, and I was very particular about everything because I was so nervous about passing X-ray. And then some of the older guys started like, hey, look, you can do it like this, and it is severe, but you don't have to take as much time to do X, Y, and Z. You can skip X and still do Y and Z and still have a great quality weld.
Right.
But you can do it way faster this way.
Right.
And I just learned
and
a
it'll
ton
shoot
there.
just fine.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Learned a ton on that one. And then after that job, I took, that was around Thanksgiving when that was over. I went home, went to the house, got laid off there, and took a little bit of time off. So I took some of November, all of December, and into January a little bit, maybe a little bit before, I think. And then after that, I was waiting on a phone call from Thanksgiving. I met a guy in the campground when so I've had my rig this whole time, pulling my camper everywhere and practicing on the weekends and stuff, downhill welding. And I just bought my 6-12 beveler. And I was like so excited. I was like, man, I finally, yes, I don't have to hand bevel all this stuff. This is awesome. So I'm out there beveling pipe at the campground over in the corner where no one's at. And then a rig welder rolls up, drives in. So we talk for 2 hours. He gives me a phone number of a guy who gives me a phone number of a guy who talks to another guy.
Who knows this guy's cousin, sister's brother.
Who's been around with this guy that's mentioned. And
who went to Alaska to weld on the Trans-Alaskan Pipeline.
Exactly, and he knows someone who's hiring. So
right.
Like, oh, awesome.
Right.
So talk to the guy, we're hiring, absolutely. We'll get you on here in a couple months, a couple weeks, and then a month, and then 2 months later. So those that kind of thing. So I took another job with QMI here in Cincinnati. So I stayed at the house and drove to Cincinnati there for a chicken food processing plant.
Okay.
So a lot of sanitary, it was 100%, everybody had to wear beard nets, hair nets, the whole nines, super clean, no eating, no drinking in the plant.
Right.
Everything like that, and more stainless. Luckily, I got a lot of stainless in my first year out.
Yeah.
And then got even better there, practicing and stuff, and then the rig welding finally called and said, hey, it's time.
Right.
Come on with it.
Yeah.
So I left that job and then went down to Natchitoches, Louisiana, and been rig welding ever since.
Okay. Yeah. So you had a goal of being a rig welder, but when you got out, you went way left field with stainless and alloys and specialty.
Absolutely.
That's really on the other spectrum of the industry, you know what I mean? Yep. So now you know that side and you know this side, so you are really capable as a welder, you know what I mean?
And that's one of the reasons I chose KWI, because I wanted to be able to do both.
Okay.
But I did not think I was going to. I thought I was like, I'm going to have this in my pocket.
Right.
And if I need to use it, I can, get on the job with what I know now.
Right.
And then figure it out and get slick with it as I'm there.
Right.
And then totally out of left field, most of my jobs out of school were stainless, which normally doesn't happen.
Right.
Normally you're on a lot of carbon at first, and
it
just happened to be stainless.
And then with the oil field, it's up and down. So whenever it goes down and there's a long pause, you can go back to that.
Right.
So that's the other good thing, with learning both sides of the industry with alloys, and then there's downhill or rig welding. So, well, that's really cool.